Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. We're here live at the Web Summit. This is the United Nations SDG Media Zone, broadcasting live on UN Web TV and a number of other social media channels. We're excited to be here in Lisbon at the Web Summit. My name is Dan Thomas. I'm the Chief of Communications for the United Nations Global Compact. I am pleased to be joined by my boss, Lise Kingo, the CEO and Executive Director of the UN Global Compact, and Ben Christensen, the Global Innovation Manager and the Director of UN Partnerships at SAP NextGen, a purpose-driven innovation university and community aligned with SAP's commitment to the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to be having a conversation just about SDG Ambition, our program aiming to mainstream the SDGs among the global business community. And so, Lisa, why don't I ask you to kick off by explaining what is this ambition that we have at the Global Compact to engage the business community in driving the Sustainable Development Goals?
Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here today at this buzzing Web Summit and to have our own SDG corner with lots of people. So this is exciting. Let me start by just saying a few words about why we felt it was necessary to launch an SDG ambition together with SAP. So at the UN a month ago, we were all taking stock on how the world is faring on the 17 beautiful global goals. The status is that we see progress in some areas, but we also see major gaps where the world is far behind all the KPIs that are sitting behind each of the 17 goals. This is particularly in the area of climate change, of the condition of the oceans, but it's also on inequalities in the world, on gender, on young people, on the global supply chain. So we simply decided that we need to kickstart the engagement and the ambition of business across the world to really push forward, that we can see the needle move behind each of the goals. The problem is that after 4 years with the goals, it's difficult to see the needle move. So that's why we call it the SDG Ambition, and it's all about making many more companies set goals for the SDGs.
And Lisa, why did we partner with SAP? What's the relationship and the partnership with SAP? How does that work?
Well, SAP has been a participant of the UN Global Compact for a number of years. We are both very, concerned and dedicated to the global goals. And from our perspective, we really want the goals to become a reality. So we quickly, teamed up and found each other in a conversation of what are we doing 4 years into the goals, and we don't see sufficient progress. So I think it was a very natural partnership, and we are so excited about what will happen in the coming months.
Thank you. Ben, tell us about SAP's role in this, rolling out this SDG Ambition Impact Initiative around the world with the UN Global Compact. How is SAP NextGen contributing to that initiative?
Thanks. I'd love to talk about that. What I see is one of the great opportunities SAP has in the world. If we just frame that for a moment, we're one of the world's largest makers of business software. And if you take some statistics like 78% of the world's food is being distributed by SAP's customers, imagine if all of the data and the processes and the people handling those processes were actually applied with a mindset that addressed Global Goal 11 or Global Goal 1. Imagine the impact we could have. So we look at SAP not just as a technology platform, but as one of the world's largest communities for impact opportunities. As we've worked together with the UN Global Compact and read the reports and heard that we as businesses and countries are really not meeting the pace which is necessary to reach the 2030 agenda, we see ourselves an opportunity and say, Well, we have CSR departments, but why isn't it a normality in all departments of business, not just ours, but in our customers as well, to have an SDG or global goals focus? And to that end, we see an obligation that SAP has. Our mission statement is to help businesses run better and improve people's lives. If we're really true to this, and we are, thanks to the leadership of our CEOs, we see an opportunity to not just be a tech platform, but an opportunity to inspire that global community. Now, in as much as we are a tech company, what sort of opportunities do we have to give instrumentation into the boardroom, help provide tools to reach those incentives? To that end, that SDG Ambition, we have been more than excited to become a founding patron sponsor to help create these management dashboards. We can go into that.
Yeah, thank you. And Lisa, how do we move from theory to action? How is this cascaded out through our global network in practice?
So we have been in dialogue with many companies across the world, also with all our local networks in different parts of the world. And it seems like what companies really want from Global Compact these days is better guidance and better tools for how to make the global goals a reality. It's interesting today that more than 60% of Global Compact companies are looking for tools from Compact, which is a huge increase, only compared to a couple of years ago. So we have developed an implementation model that is actually very simple, that, how should I say, corresponds very well with the mindset of both SAP and the UN Global Compact. And that's the model we want to roll out across the world to many companies to give very precise guidance of how to put the goals into action. And I mean, it's very simple. It basically says companies need to embed the 10 universal principles, the global goals, in the way they develop their strategy, in the purpose, in the governance, in the corporate strategy. They need to also integrate goals and principles in their operations, in unit strategies, in total quality management, in people management, in supply chain, in purchasing. And finally, they need to integrate the goals and the principles into all communications and engagement with stakeholders. So in the annual report, in the annual communication on progress that they hand into us at the Global Compact, but also in sales and marketing, and of course in communications internally with employees and with all stakeholders. So this is basically a model for how you completely integrate into all your business operations the principles and the goals. So I think our philosophy is, if you want to integrate the global goals, you either do it fully or you don't do it, because it doesn't work to only go half the way. There's nothing called being half pregnant. The same goes for the goals. You have to go all in.
I love the way you say
this. And that's the message.
It's a beautiful. I want to jump in and say we can't. You've had companies have signed up. They've more or less put the pin on figuratively and physically of the global goals, and we can't really unsign up and say, no, we're not going to do the global goals anymore. They're signed up. They may not be reaching their true potential of applying them, so they're looking for that help. There is an incredible demand, especially as we enter the next decade here, the 2020s going forward. And so this couldn't come at a better time, and we're so thrilled to be working with you in Global Compact, because you command that business network for the SDGs.
Well, Ben, tell us how is SAP going to work with our 68 local networks to roll these tools out to companies at the national level? How does that actually happen?
Great. So SAP, as a global company, of course, is a partner globally for the UN Global Compact. But in as much as SAP is in more than 150 countries around the world, we have an opportunity at our subsidiaries, especially in those 68 you mentioned, that we've actually gone in and we've signed up locally, not just globally, to have our local market units for SAP have an individual commitment to say, we're going to support the local UN Global Compact. And the companies that we're working with, yes, from SAP side, that's one, but also the companies that we're engaging with in those regions, we have local managers to be able to support those. So when this management dashboard and the performance analytics and all of these different tools that we're building are being rolled out, we can instantly bring that into scale in these countries. And that's where we see the great opportunity, in as much as SAP means scale and network. Global Compact means scale and network.
And Lisa, how is this being received by our 68 local networks around the world?
I have to say very positively. It's the right thing to do at the right moment. Right. I think all of us working for the UN Global Compact and for the SAP company, we want the goals to become a reality now. Yeah. I mean, we can see what is happening in the world if we don't act on this amazing opportunity. So we all want to see progress. And I think it's actually great if you think about that more than 80% of companies in the world have an SAP system. Yeah. And many, many companies across the world have a balanced business scorecard. If that scorecard included a set of universal principles, a set of global goals that would be taken through all the strategy and the operations and the practices in a company, that would bring the kind of integration that we are looking for and that must happen if we want to succeed with the goals.
And now if I'm a manager or a board member and I have now these tools, and in my annual report, even quarterly reports, I have the SDGs measured and instrumented as part of my business, that which is measured improves, and that which is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. Those are things that we know to be true. So that is a way to bring it into what we like to say every business process, and that's a huge thing to say, but imagine if you are your work, your companies, everybody who's listening right now, think about how the SDGs in your work, in your processes are to be applied. This is also the mindset that we need, and this is the SDG Ambition, in my mind, represents the tools, the framework, and the management tools that you need to take that from a mindset to action.
And we're here at the Web Summit. We're here in the UN SDG Media Zone at the Web Summit. I just want to finish by asking you, how are you engaging with the tech community to help this SDG ambition? What is it about the tech sector that can help accelerate our work on the Sustainable Development Goals?
So Dan, this is my first Web Summit. I'm very excited. I've never been to this event before, but I have a very clear purpose with being here. So, the goals will not become a reality without breakthrough innovation. Yeah. The goals will not become a reality without real change makers that have the courage to be radical. I think this summit gathers some of the best innovators in the world. And it would be great if we could convince more of you to be interested in the goals. Yeah. On the other hand, I also think that many tech companies could benefit from thinking more about how they can become a force for good in the world. Why it's important as an entrepreneur and as a tech company to implement universal principles, to take inspiration from the goals, to adhere to human rights, to anti-corruption, to the labor principles, because that's a way of maintaining license to operate, attract talent, and become successful, just as we can all see SAP's strategy has succeeded. But I think there's a huge potential in the tech industry for more companies to pick up a responsible business approach.
And an obligation, yeah. I would say.
Well, thank you very much, Lise Kingo, the CEO and Executive Director of the UN Global Compact, Ben Christensen from SAP Next Gen, thank you very much for being here on the stage to talk about our SDG ambition. Thank you.